We have been saying that Islam is anti-female, but when the world is clamoring for masks, which religion had built-in protective gear for women? So this is just a bit of a joke thought, but it came to me when I was walking around. I think this was back in I want to say like February, March, something like that. I was walking around the supermarket, and I just saw some lady wearing a hijab, and she had a mask on. And I was like, okay, well they have those with a mask, and then you have people who have the niqab, which is the full covering, and there's different things. And even in general, when you're wearing those kind of burqas, those kind of clothes, you have a scarf, you have something that you can just cover your face with. Now I'm thinking, is there going to be a raised chance? And that was before anyone was talking about the protective gear. I know the World Health Organization was still saying if you're healthy, you're not going to have any issues by wearing a mask. I mean, it doesn't really help you, it doesn't prevent you from actually getting anything. But that's just a thing where that was already being done. They were just doing it on default. So that's one thing when the tests and things come back. I wonder if there's going to be a way to check and see the figures of countries that were predominantly Muslim who actually have this cultural practice of covering their faces of the women. Will you see a higher rate of men in that place? We already know that more men are dying from this, but will you see a lower spread? Will they be able to actually get enough testing to see? I don't think there'll be enough. Unfortunately, I mean, so many different figures go into this. You're talking about different climates. I think that's one of the things that's really going to change. Most of these predominantly Muslim countries, with the actual lot of people wearing the actual hijabs and things like that, live in very hot, arid areas, the climate, and that has been shown to have less effect on the actual. I mean, sorry, it has been shown to have more effect on killing the virus outside in the outdoors. At least that's what I've heard. Then you go into the extra things about certain societies, certain cultures, they might have fewer actual public, actual areas. Now, if you have a situation where they're both going to church and they're still going to the mosque in these countries, and you have a separation where the few times the women actually, I think in general, with women working less in these cultures, also exiting the house less possibly, and then when they exit, if their faces are covered, they might be higher numbers there. And then even when they go to the actual religious ceremonies, those practices, when they go to those places, the women still have to wear the hijabs, right, in the mosque when it's a separate women's area, and then the men are in the men's only area, and they're all wearing kind of close together. When they do the kneeling down thing, it looks like they're bunched together, and they don't have face masks. But then when they go back home, the women normally take off the face masks when they're in the house, and then we've seen there's a higher actual amount of people. At least there's a higher than expected, although I don't know what was expected and what wasn't. There seems to be a high number of people who are also getting infected with this virus who are in quarantine. But that's not something that's going to be too surprising, because some people are more lax about the preventive measures, especially in their own home. And even if you have just one person going in and out, that's enough. One person gets it, they touch things around the house, somebody else comes and touches it, you're sitting on the couch, somebody else comes and sits on the couch, uses the remote control, goes to the bathroom, touches the door, you're sharing a cup, or you have like a jug that has water in it, you're passing it around, people are different using that. There's all different ways that it can actually be passed around inside the home. So this whole idea. But again, part of the reason, the main reason that I think was being told to have these quarantines was to flatten that curve so you don't have a situation where you overwhelm the actual medical system that you have in the place. And I think that's been achieved by most places. So this is just a bit of a joke, just talking about how different cultures and different practices are going to result with different things on different situations. With okay, or the same virus is going to have different results depending on many different things. I think another thing to think of will be with the actual death rate of this thing. You look at the actual people who are dying from this, it seems to be people in their 70s and 80s. And then you have certain cultures and certain countries and certain places that have a much lower age of expectancy, where you have a lower amount of population that is in that range. Sub-Saharan Africa has places where it's 35%, 40% under 30. And then you have places like Japan. Now, I wonder how high the rate is in Japan, where that's the oldest country in the world. But you just have, in general, if you get to a certain age in certain countries and you don't have medical actual assistance, it's not the same sorts of medical assistance, you will probably die from the first condition you get in your further ages past 60. Whereas in other countries, you will be able to live on longer with certain conditions that are comorbidities for the actual corona. So there's many things to go into this, but with the Islam thing, the way people say, wear the masks, they say, women aren't allowed to leave the house without certain supervision and certain rules and certain laws. A lot of people say that is an anti-female thing. But that's because in these cultures, in Islam, there is a certain expected threat from males in general society. You have to protect the women from these things. They are the valued, protected, they're the at risk people, so we have to protect them. Now, would they say there's also some kind of anti civilization, anti civilian, anti people thing? Now that governments are saying you have to wear masks, you have to stay home. If you go out, you have to have certain supervision and follow certain rules and laws. If you're in public, you have to wear your covering. But if you're in your house, you can take off the face mask. Is that a similar thing where you're saying that's anti people? Okay, let me know what you think. It's part of my shorty series where I expand on short thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe if you can wherever you're hearing this. Thank you for taking your time. Also, links to our merchandise store, different merch on it. Till next time, goodbye.
Hapa hiyo ikitokea hiyo. Wacha